A number of people wondering if he was actually just fleeing because the police was pursuing him. Was it admission of guilt or not? And the police coming out to say that even while he was handcuffed, he still was a threat and he was harmful. So many things remain unanswered, of course, in terms of questions. But how do you, as a civilian, the next time maybe you're in a situation the same as Ronald Sebulime, I beg your pardon, what do you do? And what do you not do? But also equipping the police as well, because as it stands out when it comes to training of the police, a few things remain unanswered. I am Rita Kanya and I'm joined by David Rukasi.
Good morning. Now, of course, after the aftermath of what happened on Sunday, and the question that I continuously have in my head is, who is in wrong here? Is because someone has to be not behaving the way they should be. Is it us, the daily Ugandans, day-to-day Ugandans? Is it the police? Are they not trained enough to deal with us? Or are we not trained enough to know how to respond to the police, especially when they come out for you? Remember, you're just a suspect. But there are very many questions that we have, and that's the reason why we have Mr. David Egesa, who is a security expert, with us here today. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us. The question I have to ask you first is, the first question I have in my head is, with the people that are getting arrested, are we misbehaving? Are we too violent? Are we not cooperating with the police, that it has pushed them to a point that even when you hand yourself over, the only way they know how to deal with you is forcefully?
What I have to say here is that human beings have a feeling of freedom. People want to be free. Secondly, it is good manners to surrender when you have been ordered to. It's also safe for you if you comply to security orders. The question is, what type of people are you surrendering to? Will they take your gesture? Will they take that gesture in the perspective, or will they believe that will they come in as tyrants? Police is supposed to be a civilian force. It is supposed to be a parent force. It is not unlike the army. If the army acted the way maybe this roughed you up and this, I would understand, because they are not so well trained in humanities. They're not so well trained about dealing with humans. All what they have to do is defensive. They'll deal with, once they are called, they imagine there is an enemy and they have to deal with him. But with the police, they're supposed to be trained as parents. They're supposed to be trained as a civilian force. They're supposed to minimize loss of life and loss and destruction of property. So in this case, we should also understand, the police should understand that fleeing is not an offense. Otherwise, it would be in the penal code that fleeing from a pursuing officer is a crime under this section, under this in the penal code.
When you say that, there's two questions that come to mind. One, fleeing, you said is not a crime.
It's not a crime.
So in case the police have come out to arrest me,
yes,
for whatever I am being accused of doing, and I flee the scene, what happens? Do the police have the right to shoot at me, chase me, or do they leave me and pursue me on another day?
In our own days, police, people were selected, like say at the level of recruiting. They had to look at your physical abilities. You had to like your capacity to run, your capacity to, because the running will be used at a time when maybe you need to pursue a suspect, or possibly to take off from a dangerous situation. Now, if you are dealing with policemen who are, some of them are depictive in signs of drunkenness, they cannot run. So the best he has to use is the bullet, because he cannot chase you. First is wrong. Now, we're talking about a force that should have capacity to chase you, possibly fire in the air to scare you, and if you are to go, they can get you any other day. They should not summarily stop your life, because you may be a conduit, you may be a conduit of a crime, you may be you may be having a lot of information. Police may need to crack several other crimes. Like in this case, peradventure, this gentleman was possibly one of the people hitting. We have a line of unanswered murders where bikers have shot people. So meaning that it would be a great breakthrough if really he was a suspect.
Now, talking about the bullet, when it comes in and you say perhaps you need to shoot at someone who's fleeing, yes? You make mention of the fact earlier on that when you shoot, if the police is to shoot at someone that perhaps they need to bring into custody, where should they be shooting? How should they shoot? And do you shoot only when fire exchange is going on?
Of course, if someone has, if the person you're trying to arrest creates a situation that puts the officer in danger, like he pulls out a gun, he pulls out an arrow, and he's not complying to the orders. Possibly with the arrows, you know, it depends. If you have a panga and you are 10 meters, I may not shoot you. If you have an arrow and you are 15 meters, because with an arrow you can use, it's a flying kind of weapon. With a spear, I'll know that a man cannot, if like you're in some meters and I give you orders, and I see that you're not raising your weapon, I can still hold you at gunpoint and order you to put your weapon down. So you comply to my orders. Now, in a situation whereby a man with a panga comes like within 2-3 meters, then you can shoot him. But still, where do you shoot? What part of the body do you aim at? The person has hands. He has the legs. He has up to around the thighs. Because if you say that maybe the legs are too small, you can go for the thigh. It is also big enough. If you are good at if you're a good marksman, you can go for the hand that is carrying a weapon. So it depends on the mindset of a good police officer should be to save that life.
Mr. Gesa, I keep asking myself, what explains the kind of treatment that we see from police to the people that are simply suspects? No one has judged them yet. They're suspects. They're meant to be taken into custody. We have seen very many cases where civilians have handed themselves in. Even when they humbly do that, respectfully of the force, they are still treated like they're fighting the force. What explains that kind of treatment from the police? Is it untrained police officers? Is it us, the ordinary people, that are forcing them to treat us that way?
There's a line of reasons. One, I will talk about frustration. Some of these policemen, sometimes they are overworked. They are given, you know, they are forced or they are pushed into working for long hours. In the process, of course, they also have a mental breakdown like any other person. Think of a situation that you are deployed in the morning, and then they say don't go home. There is a special duty, so you have to work another 24 hours. By the time you are like after working for 15 hours in a day, how do you expect someone to be that sane, that in his full mind, and maybe able to deal with situations in a proper manner? So we're talking about the way they are being overworked. We're also talking about the way they are being paid. Some of them live, you know, policemen go to the police station, especially the very young people. It is good if you pull out money. You see that they're really, it's like they are beggars. We are being served by police, which is not well paid. That's also another reason. So lastly, it could be a situation of orders from errant commanders, where they say, bring him. Now, if you are to tell a policeman that bring him, what will you bring? Those use for it. You know, it's like you are telling this person, just go like possibly fierce dog, get the person, and I want him here. The mess is not a problem. Lastly, I'm sorry, maybe it would have been the last one, is the way commanders, if like you bring a person roughed up, you should be answerable. It should not be praised. But there are areas where they will say that, oh, you said Joseph. Joseph is the one who can manage that situation. Now, you have kind of singled out Joseph for rough operations, and you do not reprimand him wherever there is a situation. So, because of poor supervision, poor remuneration, possibly forcing these guys to work for many hours, and then sometimes poor training. So that's why we are seeing a kind of, so many problems coming around. just because we have a line of issues really.
Now, when those line of issues actually are present in a police officer, I who's being arrested, how should I be able, because now clearly there are a number of issues that maybe someone will treat you the way they do, but if I am being arrested, what should be my manner and my behavior when I'm being arrested?
Human reasoning, if I think that I'm going to face a police that will not respect me, naturally I may have even to flee. I may have to run away because I'm not sure of what I'm surrendering myself into. But ordinarily, it is very good that if you believe that you cannot take off, if you believe that you are not, you cannot overrun them. If you believe that, as we see now, if you believe that you cannot overrun their bullets, surrender. Maybe hereafter, but of course you never know. It depends on how orders change. Maybe that is a situation of saying, Maliza Uyu. So you have to be very careful. You have to. I wouldn't
do you make a call in that moment? What do you do? Because you're not.
I think the best is to create a situation of surrender. If you like, you have been surrounded. Sit down. Make sure the policeman is seeing your both hands, and make sure you don't create maneuvers that appear to be like possibly you're in the position to attack him, and let him, because once you are under arrest, then you are the property of he who has arrested you. If you are far away and you hear a policeman is coming and you're maybe 2-3 homes, try to take off because you do not know what may result.
Mr. Gesa, are the police force in this country trained enough to handle human beings? Because, like you said, the police is supposed to be humanitarian. They are supposed to be people that deal with people. Are the police force in Uganda trained enough to deal with us?
They are trained. They are trained. They have gone through very, very good courses and drills. The only problem is what makes a person a good policeman. Like I said, there are many factors. One is the way he has been oriented. 2 is the way he's being supervised. 3 is the way he's being paid. Then we talk about the time. A policeman should serve within a limited time, say like 8 hours, and then he goes off, another person comes in. But if you're going to stretch him into 24 hours and you still expect him to behave in the same way, then it cannot be. Yeah.
So, now we know where the problem is.
I think we do know, but I wonder if the police administration appreciates this.
This is exactly what I was going to put up to you. You are the security expert. You didn't appear here by surprise. We didn't pick you off the street and say, this man I think is a security expert. So you clearly are a person in position that can advise.
Well,
I'm about to blame you. Because you have all the knowledge, you have the expertise, you know what we need to do. But why are you not advising the people responsible to make sure that the unprofessionalism of the police is pushed out so that we can use working hours? That is very simple. We're just coming up with a schedule. Well, about the paying them better might be a struggle. The police will tell you about the budget and all this, which is quite understandable. But if you're not paying them as well as they should be, at least let them have understandable working hours.
I'm very sure that wherever I'm here on several televisions, I'm being watched by almost the police administration. And it's like I've not been approached to help. It's like 4 years now that I offered myself to go to their colleges and teach, and I've not been approached. So I cannot force myself on them. That's why there are areas where I've been a bit hard on them. There are areas where I've been unhappy about them because, like in this case, the police administration should not be party to crimes of errant officers. They should create a very big distance between themselves and this 99 and the commanders and whoever was issuing orders to the 99. So, they should not try to defend the uniform. Let them stay clear of a situation that's a blatant murder. That's an execution.
So, in other words, you're telling us we are not safe with these people. In their hands, we are not safe.
No, as long as what I don't want to hear is a situation where the police administration talks about, creates a list of other things to be done before they can take action on these murderers. I would wish if I heard that they have been arrested and they are being questioned for murder, in my speeches I would say yes, I think we are dealing with a very sane administration. But if we are talking about a situation of saying we're looking for the particular gun, that fight. Now, in case you fail to get the particular gun, there's no offense. Now, what about the man who was commanding the 99? What about those who failed to stop their colleague from shooting? What about those who, after seeing him kill a person, and they know that was murder, they not kind of team around him,
the pickup, and they
team around him and arrest him. So they are all accomplices. They are part and parcel to this crime.
Yes, but
just a second. When we were beginning the interview, Rita said something very interesting. He said that the police claim that this man was still a danger to, even in handcuffs.
Yeah, if I was to possibly be appointed to take an independent investigation on this matter, looking at their alibi, we look at what they are trying to use to that kind of defense, I would get this man, I would exhume the body, test him if he had venom, if he could still bite like a snake, because that's you have handcuffed a person. Yes, he may possibly kick, but that cannot cause serious danger. The only thing would be that possibly could use his mouth to bite like a snake. Maybe that's what I'm saying. And there's venom, exactly. Otherwise, if a man has been secured, if it's a problem, like you have handcuffed him from the front, turn and handcuff him from behind. Try to secure him. There are several ways of securing a person. Otherwise, if it was a situation of saying that, yes, a person on handcuffs can be dangerous, but not to 5 policemen.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. As we wrap up, you do mention the fact that as we wait for the police to be able to sort out its end of things, perhaps there's something an individual can do for someone who's watching right now, because you never know when you could be arrested and for what you could be arrested for.
What the public has to do is to come up with organizations that deal with policing discipline. I have a campaign I'm kind of authoring whereby we go for when a policeman commits an offense, we should not even disturb administration. We should not even sue the police. Yes, in some cases we should, but we should first of all deal with the individual in civil arrangements. I'm doing this in Tororo, on the other piece of Tororo for carrying out for supervising an illegal eviction, and I'm suing him as a person. I'm really, because that's the way we can isolate. That's the way we can help Ochora. That's the way we can isolate this. Because in Uganda, policemen. Like you would say that you have 10 cases done against the public, yes, in a kind of in a wrong way. So meaning that if someone is to take personal responsibility, then they will have to learn. We have to pull them out of the conduits of protection. From doing something, then you say I've done it as a policeman. You shoot someone and then say I've shot as a policeman. You have been trained. Yes. You have been well selected, meaning that you have a duty to do the right thing. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. David Egesa, a security expert. This morning we have been looking at treatment of suspects by armed forces, and of course this comes in the aftermath of that saga over the weekend where we had a Ugandan killed by armed forces while he was cuffed, and the questions of course still remain on why he was shot while he was handcuffed, and all the other questions that will of course keep on getting the details as the week goes on, as investigations goes on as well. Morning at NTV continues. We're going to have Mala take us through the business update for business people. This is your session coming up in just a few. Good morning.
And win every 10 minutes. For every 1,000 you spend, it gives you 1 entry into the jackpot this Sunday.
On MTN, simply dial *165*33#. That's *165*33#. Then enter your 3 lucky numbers. Then enter your 1,000 shillings. And on Airtel, dial *185*33#. That's *185*33#. Then enter your 3 lucky numbers. Then enter your 1,000 shillings and get that super feeling today. Super.